This right here is House of Parliament. It was the only shot I could get because I'm just recording this on my own, see, so I didn't want to like put it really far away and then, you know, someone comes along and speeds off of it. I thought I would do a little bit of a video just about central London and my thoughts on central London, because I don't like this place. I don't like the centre of this city. And it's probably that I don't like the centre of any city. I'm not someone that's keen on the hustle and the bustle. I mean, it's all right to once in a while, right? But whenever I've worked in central London, I've had to come in every day. I genuinely despise it. You know, the whole process of getting up early and then getting on the train and it's packed because it's rush hour and you've got all these guys in suits. You know, some reading like newspapers, and that's all right. I don't mind them reading newspapers. And you kind of look around, you see everyone's like on the phone, and then you think like, oh God, we're all on our phones. And then I think, well, fuck, I'm on my phone as well. So there's not really any way of criticising that aspect without being a hypocrite. And part of who Johnny Mozzer is for this film going forwards is someone who would complain about those things in a hypocritical way. And it's something that I, you know, do feel deep down, but it's also something that I'm aware enough about that if I was to start talking about it, you know, people could turn it back around on me and go, well, you know, you go on your phone, you know, you use YouTube, you know, you're on your phone listening to music or scrolling through Reddit or whatever. But I think what annoys me about central London, that's one aspect of it, the hustle and the bustle, but it's not everything. I think what particularly irritates me is just how large and oppressive a lot of it feels. Like if you go to Piccadilly Circus, for instance, just this, I mean, you know how they've got the Piccadilly Circus advert thing on the corner, and that's like a big advertising, that's a big tourist thing. People come from all around the world to see that thing. It's an advert. You can see adverts anywhere you go. You can't get away from adverts. So why are you going somewhere just to see the adverts? I don't quite understand that. And Piccadilly Circus in particular, I think, encompasses a lot of what I dislike about central London, because it's got quite small roads, but it's got these extremely tall buildings. And sure, the architecture is nice. The architecture is really lovely. Like around here, you see that. That's the bottom of the House of Parliament. And, you know, it does look amazing. And I wish we could get back to that kind of architecture rather than, you know, like new builds and gentrification that comes around and makes everything look exactly the same. I would like us to go back to this style of thing. I love seeing like a Tesco Express that used to be some kind of like ornate looking building with like really intricate stonework on the outside. I like seeing that, but I don't know. I get that it's not, you know, not necessarily profitable, but the will isn't there, obviously, because money is one aspect of it. But it's not like this government couldn't be putting forward some kind of program to ensure that there are some really nice looking buildings around. In fact, Angela Rayner recently, I did a video about it for another series that I do called Phineas King, where I dress up as a really sort of interviewer kind of guy, and he's a little bit stupid. And what frustrates me about what Angela Rayner's doing is she's taken the word beautiful out of the requirements for new buildings. And it's not like that was being followed beforehand. So I get why she's taken it out, because it's not being used, it's not useful, because also what counts as beautiful is subjective. But I think no one would agree that a new build estate is a beautiful thing. No one would agree that, like, you know, that exact same copy-pasted thing everywhere. And I've seen it in other cities as well. Like, I went to Milan last year and, you know, I was looking at all the buildings in the center. I was around Buenos Aires in Milan, and it's a really beautiful little spot. And what I really liked about the architecture was just how ornate and Italian it felt. It felt like Italy, right? And some of the buildings there are like Central Station is, oh my God, it's awe-inspiring how beautiful it is. But then you get out into the more like suburban parts, like their equivalent of like Zone 5 and Zone 6. But in London, you've got zones. So we're in Zone 1 now, which is Westminster. And then, you know, you go out to Zone 2 and that's like Chelsea and stuff like that. And you go out to Zone 3 and that's Hammersmith. And you go out to Zone 4 and that's like Hounslow, and then you go up to zone 5, and that's like Feltham, Heathrow, and then you go up to zone 6, which is just, you're basically in the countryside by that point. So in Milan, when I went there, and I went to the equivalent of about zone 5 or zone 6, we started seeing the exact same buildings everywhere. These, copy-pasted, exactly the same, brown exterior, the smooth look to it with paneling. Sometimes they pretend to put brick over it, like they have this painted looking brick thing on it. Sometimes they don't even bother doing that. What annoys me about that is that those buildings aren't going to last particularly long. They're going to last like 70, 80 years, when they could have invested that money in the long run, and they could have made a building that could have lasted for 500 years or more. I'm not expecting every building to look like that, to have that level of historical significance, but I am expecting every building to at least, look decent and complement the surrounding area and complement the culture of whatever country it happens to be in. You get to some parts now, like some parts of Milan, I was looking around and it just looked exactly the same as bloody, like, Harlesden. Have you ever heard of Harlesden? No? It's a shithole, right? And it's a shithole because there's no culture to the architecture. I'm not talking about culture of the people, I'm talking about culture of the architecture. Everything just looks the same. And there's no personality to the buildings, there's no feeling that any care was put into this. Like the architect is, he's getting paid, he's probably just adjusted his old blueprint ever so slightly for, oh, this building's going to be a little bit bigger because the plot of land's a little bit larger. And we do need to be building more, houses, for instance. We have a big housing shortage in this country. And I understand, going back to the Angela Rayner thing, that she has taken out the thing for beautiful because she wants to build more houses, and more power to her. I really hope that she does do that, but I don't think she actually is, because the will isn't there. Because at the moment, the fact that there is a housing shortage is beneficial to landlords and housing developers, because they are able to sell their product for more because there's an artificial shortage. We could be building more houses, we could be doing that, but we're not. And the reason that we're not is because there's money involved. And obviously that's the way that it is, and that's the way that it's always going to be, and there's no change in that. But what we could do, at the very least, is, I don't know, I don't have any solutions. I don't have anything like that, because I'm sure every solution has been tried and tested and failed. I mean, in the Soviet Union, for instance, they, after World War II, they had a huge initiative where they built the commie blocks, that's what they were called, and they built so many of them. I think they made enough spaces to house like 10 million people. I don't know the specifics, but they built loads and loads of houses, and they built them in a very efficient way. And I don't necessarily want them to do exactly that. I want them to do something similar to that, but I want them to build those style of buildings, but I also want them to make those buildings look good. I want them to have a feel where they don't feel oppressive, like a lot of the buildings in central London are able to do. And the reason that they're able to do that is because they're all so tall, and they're also, like, you can't see the sky really when you go somewhere. Like, the sky is this thin strip in like when you look up, and you've just got these giant buildings on either side, and it's just like that. That's the way that it is. And I have one solution, which might be a stupid solution. What I think they should do is set aside a big area, somewhere up north, somewhere that's coastal, and take that plot of land, maybe like 50 square kilometers, and make it so that, not 50 square kilometers, maybe like 200 square kilometers, the size of like Birmingham-ish, and put some regulations down that are the same kind of regulations that they have in Hong Kong. Where in Hong Kong, there's a lot less restriction about what you can build and how you can build it and where you can build it and that kind of thing. The Country Planning Act of 1947, I want to say, introduced the idea of planning permission. And with that, it certainly is good in that, say QPR wants to come and build a training ground in your local area, and bulldoze your green spaces to do this, to build this training ground, so they can then introduce dozens and dozens of multi-millionaires, if their Lamborghinis clogging up the roadways. I get that it's good for that. No, you can go past if you want. I'm just filming a thing for just talking about central London. Just someone that was walking past. I get why the country planning act is good for that, but I think it comes into an issue now when all land is owned already. There's very little unowned land. There's very little space to expand without putting some actual thought into what we're doing. And because we've got developers against developers, private interests against other private interests, against public interests, we're at a standstill and we can't actually do anything. And the reason that we can't do anything is in part because we have so many regulations. And I'm not someone that's anti-regulation. I'm not like a libertarian in that regard. But I feel like if we want to solve the housing crisis, which we need to do now, soon, ASAP, right? The best way to do that would be to set aside a big space of land and allow developers to build it up and turn it into a new city. We need about I think it's 3 million houses we need to build. So what's that? Maybe it's double the size of Birmingham. We need a city double the size of Birmingham. But instead of doing that, they're trying to build like, a little estate here and a little estate there, 2,000 houses here, 2,000 houses here, in all these little towns that are then blowing up and becoming something that the residents themselves object to. And everything's kind of becoming a bit the same because we've got these developers that are putting up these exact same looking copy-paste new builds, which is something that in this film, Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, he's going to be discussing what I'm talking about now, but probably a little bit more, less. I feel like I'm semi-well-rounded. Wait for the comments to be like, he thinks he's semi-well-rounded in his argument. He's a fucking idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about, right? And I don't claim to know what I'm talking about, but I can at least see the issue, and I can at least try and propose something. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. But we need to do something. It doesn't matter what that is, but we need to build these houses and we need to get them built. And I think we need to build them as well in a way that doesn't alienate the population and turn, because we not only need to build more houses, but with those houses we need to build services like schools and hospitals and shops and entertainment, like culture, pubs and restaurants and laser tag. if you wanted to play laser tag, you've got to have stuff there for people to live. Have you ever been to Milton Keynes? Milton Keynes was the idea from, it was the brainchild of, I'm not sure what the saying is, of Harold Wilson, who was the Prime Minister in the 60s and 70s. And he got this, he didn't obviously build it himself, but he got this off the ground, and Milton Keynes went from being this tiny little village to this, it's like 500,000 population city. And if you look at it on Google Maps, drop the pin anywhere on Google Maps and try and find a shop, try and find a bar, try and find a restaurant, try and find some semblance of culture, of life. You can't. All you see is the exact same looking house connected by these A roads. So everything there is very car oriented, and we also need to be moving away from car oriented communities and trying to push people towards public transport. We need to also do that in a way that somehow doesn't make everyone's life worse. Like, for instance, what are they called? People with a tradesmen, they need a van to get from A to B, and they get fucked over by ULEZ, which one particular guy in there is very passionate about. I'm quite anti-ULEZ, but I'm not anti the idea of cracking down on unnecessary driving. I'm not against that inherently. And I've seen Paris has this idea, this law they put in, where if you drive into Paris with a like a 4x4 or like some huge vehicle, you don't need like something like that. I think it's like you're either just not allowed in or you're charged like some extortionate rate. I think that would be better than what Sadiq Khan is doing with ULEZ, which is basically just to punish the poor who don't have the public transport connections. And the reason they don't have those public transport connections is because Mayor of London's not putting them out there. He did something called Superloop, which was basically just, he added like 8 new bus routes. Good for him. But he has to brand it in a way so it makes it look like he's made some huge change. He hasn't. He's changed the names of some things. And now he's trying to change the names of all the lines on the overground. And that's costing a load of money for nothing. Like, we don't need that. That money could be going towards actually putting in new bus routes or building a new train line or at least, improving a station, maybe making step-free access in more stations. It could do something. Whereas what it's doing now is just, it's punishing the poor. Meanwhile, people that can afford to pay ULEZ can just continue to pollute. Like, I'm not someone that's anti-regulation or environmentalism or anything like that. I'm very for these causes, and we need to actually be doing something about them. But the way that the politicians are going around about them at the moment, I find significant issue with. And I think that it's turning our cities into these lifeless husks where everyone is just getting to their job, getting back. They don't have that what's called a third place, so like a cafe or a pub or something like that, where they go regularly. Like in the past, you'd be at home, you go to work, and you get back from work, and then you might go to the pub, right? So you have that third place. We don't have that third place anymore. The equivalent of a third place is going down to my local park and doing some filming and just getting some little shots of whatever I want, like some flowers, or if I find some like nice view, I get that. Or maybe I do one of these little talks to camera or something like that. Or, occasionally I go to the open mics, and the open mics are a serious bastion of community that I've found. I'm sure there's other bastions of community out there. This is the one that's spoken to me. And I think it's really beautiful what can actually be done when people can actually come together and form a community and form a connection with one another in a city that feels like it's trying to rip people apart and prevent that kind of human experience. That's why they're building things that have no soul to them and no personality or no culture to the architecture, because why does that matter when we can build it cheaper? If we need to get all these things done, let's make them look as shit as possible, because it's the cheapest way of getting it done. Or maybe we'll put some I don't know what it's called, like this wallpaper kind of brickwork, and you can tell it from a mile away. Or maybe what they'll do, they'll put one layer of bricks on the outside if they're feeling fancy. Or the worst one is, when they've got those balconies that are just like screwed in with bolts and stuff, and they're not actually they're freestanding balconies. I hate them. I went to a friend's house and he had one of those, and every time I went out for a cigarette, I was like this. And then the second the cigarette's done, get back inside, that's terrifying. Yeah, I think, hang on, I'm not gonna be in focus there. I think that's gonna be it. I think that's all you need to know. You can go past if you want. Just recording a video about central London, about all the issues and that.
All right, okay.
About how the housing situation, how we kind of need to build new houses, but at the same time we're building these kind of copy-paste new builds and that kind of thing. It's kind of ripping semi-communities apart, that kind of thing. It's generally about that. Yeah, that's why I figure have Parliament in the background.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea. Same in Glasgow, places like that.
Is it?
We all need new housing.
Exactly. You have a good day. Cheers, nice. Just gonna make sure I'm still recording. I hope I am. Yeah, I am. I think with that, she agreed with me. So you can see that the public, or with a sample size of 1, do agree with this. I think the other woman said she agreed with it as well. I think everyone agrees with it. Everyone I've spoken to, no one sort of says that this is fine, what's going on, that this is just okay. Everyone is on side. But what we disagree on is the specifics, and somehow we need to sort that out. And I don't have the solution to that, and I'm not going to try and come up with a solution again, because I've done that. I spend my life, I feel like, coming up with solutions for these guys. Not that they ever listen to them, I'm not expecting them to, because I'm just me. I'm just a guy with a camera, and I can do what I can do, and I enjoy doing it. And thank you very much for joining me for this very long, very rambly talk. I hope it made some semblance of sense, and I hope that we can form some kind of discussion in the comments, have some back and forth. If you disagree with anything that I've said, please pull me up on it. If I've gotten something wrong, pull me up on it. Or if you just have a different approach or opinion, then please share it in the comments, and we can have some kind of back and forth. I might not respond to everything. I do like having a bit of a debate, but I don't like doing it all the time. So I might respond every now and then. I might get sick of it and I might move on to another thing. So don't wait for a bit for me to respond. I'll probably take some time, because I'm also doing the film as well, Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence, which is going to be discussing these details, not in more detail, but it's going to be showing different approaches to it. And I think I would like Johnny Moz to be someone that, has the right idea about what the problem is, but has no idea about how to fix it, which is kind of me. I mean, I've managed to talk for however long this video is. I feel like it's been about half an hour about this topic. And it's a topic that means a lot to me, because I've lived in cities all my life and I've seen the way that things have changed, not like drastically. It's not like I'm old, but like I'm still a young person. So it's not like I've seen drastic shifts, but whenever I speak to someone that's older, they say that it's gotten so much worse, and that things used to be so much closer knit than it is now, and I would like to see a return to that. That's essentially the point I've been trying to spiral around. And now I think, those little penny machines, you drop the penny in and it spirals round and round and round and round and round. I think dropping it into the hole is basically just saying we need to do something. And I don't know exactly what that is. One, it's build houses. Two, we need to support communities, and we need to be putting in more services for these communities. We need to be improving the NHS, we need to be improving workers' rights. We need to be improving the public transport system, and not sitting back and going, oh, we've got one of the best public transport systems in the world, we don't need to make it any better. Yeah, if it's one of the best public transport systems in the world, isn't that an indictment of the fucking problem in the world? It's an issue, and we need to be working on it. And I feel like we're procrastinating as a society through partisan politics and stupid non-issues that are used to stir up culture wars, and we're not discussing things that actually matter. And it's not like I'm above all of that, and it's not like I'm trying to look down on everyone who's like I'm better, but it is what it is. For the third time, thank you so much for watching. I've been Joshua Morris, and watch Johnny Moz's Lessons in Confidence when that comes out. If you subscribe to the channel, you're going to see loads and loads of more things about these kind of topics. Whatever I want to talk about, I might do some about music, I might do some about the film, I might do some about this kind of politics, or my thoughts on current events, stuff like that. It's just a place for me to express myself, and that's what YouTube's meant to be. I mean, what was the original subtitle for YouTube? Is YouTube broadcast yourself. That's what I'm doing. So thank you very much for taking part for the fourth time now, and I'll see you around, yeah?